lesson 2 is absolute value. Now here we want you to predict two things that you will learn about absolute value. So what you were supposed to do is you're supposed to scan your lesson and see what you're going to learn. So here's what we've got. We're going to learn how to represent absolute value on a number line. And we are going to learn how to write absolute value, an absolute value of a number. Okay? So, for the vocabulary startup, it says the distance between a number and 0 on the number line is called absolute value. I want you to make sure you have that definition written in your spiral. Okay? The distance between a number and 0 on a number line is called the absolute value. So here, each mark on the number line indicates 1 yard. Draw a tree 3 yards west of the house and draw a mailbox 3 yards east of the house. Okay, so first we want to draw a tree 3 yards. 3 yards, so here's the house. 3 yards west of the house, this way, right? 1, 2, 3, west. So here's a tree, draw a tree. Christmas tree. Pine tree. And then it says draw a mailbox 3 yards east of the house. Okay, let's draw a mailbox.
Is this in our textbook?
Yeah, you can do this in your textbook.
You're still recording, right?
Here, there's mailbox. Okay. The distance between the house and the tree, okay, the distance between the house and the tree is blank. The distance between the house and the mailbox. If we're looking at the distance between the house and the tree, let's see how many jumps. 1, 2, 3 jumps to the tree, right? Which is 3 yards. Good.
3 yards to the mailbox.
So when we go the other direction,
3 yards.
1, 2, 3. 3 jumps, right? So it's
3 yards.
3 yards to the mailbox. So the distance, when I'm comparing the two, it is what? Equal. Okay? Is everybody clear? All right, the tree and the mailbox are in blank directions from the house.
Separate directions.
Not separate. Well, they are separate. But if one goes way over here, it goes in this direction. They are different. They're in opposite directions. One's the west and one's the east. Very good. So, these are opposites. Opposite directions. How does the number line above help you understand the absolute value? Well, what do you think? If we're looking at the distance to the left and the distance to the right, they're both the same. They're in opposite directions. What do you know?
It tells us like what direction they're going, or
So looking at the number line, if this is a number line, okay? If we're going to consider this a number line, the house would be at 0, right?
yes.
So the house is at 0. Okay? So if this is 0, then the mailbox would be 3 units to the right, so that would be a positive 3, right? Okay, so, and the tree would be 1, 2, 3 units to the left, and that would make that a negative 3. Okay? Okay? So here, they're both the same distance, but they're in opposite directions on the number line. Is everybody clear? So the house is at 0 on the number line. The mailbox and the tree are the same distance from the house, but in opposite directions. All right, so we want to find opposites. So positive numbers such as 2 are graphed to the right of 0 on a number line. Okay, you need to make sure you write that in your spiral. Make sure you know that information. So, positive numbers are graphed to the right of 0 on a number line. Negative numbers are graphed to the left of 0 on a number line. So if you look at this number line here, 0 is right in the middle there, okay? All the numbers to the right are positives. All the numbers to the left are negatives, okay? Now, numbers that you would think of that would be positive or like stacking books on a table. If I stacked 3 books on a table, that stack would be represented by a positive 3, right? If I had a big stack on the table, and we took 5 books off, that would be represented by a negative 5. Is everybody clear with that? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Good. Now, opposites are numbers that are the same distance from 0 in opposite directions, just like the tree and the mailbox. Okay? So here, make sure you write this down. Opposites are numbers that are the same distance. Opposites are numbers that are the same distance from 0 on the number line in opposite directions. Since 0 is not negative nor is it positive, 0 is its own opposite. Okay? 0 is its own opposite. So the opposite of a number is the number, for 0 is the number itself. So let's see. The opposite of negative 3 is?
Positive 4.
Is positive 3. Right? The opposite of negative 3 is positive 3. The opposite of negative 8 is positive 8. The opposite of 12 is
Negative 12.
negative 12. Very good. You get the idea?
Yep.
All right. Good. Yeah. So we want, for the first example, we want to find the opposite of 5. Negative 5. If we're using the number line, all we have to do is count in the other direction, right? So here, if we're looking for the opposite of negative 5, there's negative 5 right there, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units away to the left of 0, the opposite will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units to the right of 0. Is everybody clear?
Mm-hmm.
All right, good. So, the opposite of negative 5 is positive 5.
Are you recording?
Uh-huh. So, if we want to use symbols, it says here, the integer negative 5 uses a negative symbol. Of course, the negative symbol looks like a minus, right? Okay? We don't say minus, we say negative. Okay?
So you writing that down?
The opposite of the negative symbol is a positive symbol. Okay? Now, do I always have to put a plus in front of a positive number?
No.
No. If there's no sign in front of a number, it's positive. Okay? If there's no number, it's positive. If there's no sign in front of a number is positive. Okay? All right. So, here we want to find the opposite of 4. What's the opposite of 4? Negative 4. Very good. Very good. All right. So, let's do these examples. What's the opposite? And this is so simple, right? Do I have to show any work?
No.
No.
So
What is the opposite of 3?
Negative 3.
Thank you. Negative 3 is the opposite. You don't have to show your work. You have to show your work. Unless it tells you to show it on a number line. Okay? What is the opposite of negative 2? Positive 2. Do I have to write a plus in front? No, I don't have to write a plus in front. Okay. Okay, now, here's an example of somebody going too fast when reading the directions or reading the question, okay? This says, what is the opposite of negative 2, right? So, the opposite of negative 2 is 2. There's the opposite. But then we want the opposite of the opposite.
So negative 2 then.
So the final answer would be negative 2. Is that clear? All right, here, absolute value. The absolute value of a number is the distance between the number and 0 on the number line. You've already written that down, right? If you haven't written that down, you need to make sure. Make sure you get that in your start, okay? If you haven't written it down already, make sure you write it down. So, the symbol for absolute value are 2 lines, okay? So here are the symbols. This is the symbol for the absolute value. Everybody see that? 2 lines around the number. So, the way we read this is the absolute value of. So this is the absolute value of 4. Now, we're not looking for the opposite of 4. We're looking for the distance a number is away from 0 on the number line, right? So, the absolute value of 4 is what? 4. So here, the next one, the absolute value of negative 4 is 4. Is my answer ever going to be, if I'm looking for an absolute value, is my answer ever going to be negative?
No.
No. It's always going to be positive because absolute value is the distance a number is away from 0 on the number line. Can you have a negative distance?
No.
No. When you measure, your distance is always going to be a positive number. You can have a negative that represents, like going backwards, can represent going back a negative distance, right? But the actual distance is always going to be positive. You got that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good. All right. So here, the integers, negative 4 and 4, are 4 units from 0, even though they are on opposite sides of 0. So we read this as the absolute value of negative 4. Okay? That's the absolute value of negative 4. And then that will give us a positive answer, 4. Got it? All right. So we want to evaluate the absolute value of negative 7. How many units away from 0 on the number line is negative 7? 7. Very good. Now here we want to evaluate an expression. Okay? We're going to evaluate the expression. Here we want to find what is the absolute value of 5? 5. And then we're going to add the absolute value of negative 6, which is 6.
And then
Right. So now we have 5 plus 6, which is 11. Is everybody clear?
Yes.
Good. So for example 5, we want the absolute value of -7 minus the absolute value of 3. So, what is the absolute value of -7? 7. Minus the absolute value of 3, which is
4.
What?
3.
3.
Oh, sorry. Why did you say 4?
Because he's going ahead.
Oh.
So here, 7 minus 3 is
4.
There you go. Got it? All right, excellent. So let's do some together. So we've got the absolute value of 14, which is
14.
14. We don't even have to show any work on that one, right?
Mm-hmm.
How about this is, and remember, listen to how I read it, okay? The absolute value of -9 plus the absolute value of 3. Okay, that's how we read it. So, what is the absolute value of 9?
9.
9. Plus, what's the absolute value of 3? 3. So we have 9 plus 3, which is
12.
12. Did I have to show work here?
No. Yes.
Yes. Okay. How about this one? Absolute value of 8 is 8. Minus the absolute value of 2 is?
2.
I'm sorry, the absolute value of -2 is
2.
2. And then we have 8 minus 2, which is?
6.
6. Is everybody clear?
Yes.
Now, let me just throw this in there for you, just as a little side note. What if I had the absolute value, what if I had the absolute value of -2 minus the absolute value of -8?
You're going to have to switch it around.
No.
Actually, no.
What's the absolute value of -2?
2.
2. Minus, what's the absolute value of -8?
8.
8. So this says 2 minus 8, which brings up what you were talking about, Ben. This is going to be -6. And we will talk about negative integers later on. The seagull is flying 25 feet above sea level. Do you think that's going to be a positive or a negative?
Positive.
Very good. Nevea, thank you, is diving 15 feet below sea level. Is that going to be a positive or a negative?
Negative.
Good. What is the distance between Nevea and the seagull? So here, we want to know what is the total distance, right? So, we're going to add the absolute value of Nevea and the seagull, which is the absolute value of 25, right? Oh, they already have it written down here. The absolute value of 25 plus, now we want to know the distance between Nevea and
The seagull.
the diving. He's diving, or she's diving. She. I don't know. Below sea level, so that's going to be we said it already, it's a negative number, right?
Yeah.
So we want the absolute value of -15. Is everybody clear how we got the expression? So we have the absolute value of 25, which is 25, plus the absolute value of -15, which is 15. And then we have 25 plus 15, which is 40. Is everybody clear? All right.